Welcome to Conversations from Stritch. Today's February 8th, and I'm Dr. David Livingston, president of Lewis University, and I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Christopher Sint, our provost. It's been a busy week. It always is, it feels like. But I've also, and Chris joined me for part of this, was in Washington, D.C. for the last week at the Association of Catholic Colleges and University meeting and the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities. And I just want to say a couple things. I mean, there's a lot that goes on there, but I did want to say for anybody watching, student, parent, prospective student, we know, and the federal government knows, that the FAFSA, which is the form that everybody has filled out in order to get financial aid, it's way behind. Normally, you'd be able to fill it out in October. You can now fill out the form, but we won't be able to get information back to you till mid-March, is what we heard this week from people in DC. And I guess the big thing that I want to say to all of our families, prospective students, current students, is that the key is, I think, just to kind of try to just relax into this. Every school in the country, every student in the country, every family in the country is dealing with the same thing. And the challenge that we want to be partner with you on is that if you're looking at 4 or 5 schools, the thing you won't be able to do as early as you used to is compare the financial aid packages that you receive from these 5 different schools you're looking at. But if you need more information from us about a program, we can help you with all that, and then we'll get you that information as soon as we can, which will be, we will get the information from the federal government mid-March, and then it takes us a little time to process it, and we'll be getting packages out to people as soon as possible. The other thing that I was really, reminded of in a powerful way is how important the Catholic educational sector is. We were with, a couple hundred presidents and provosts and other leaders in Catholic higher education. And what I love hearing about it is just this balance between the focus on the liberal arts and the care and concern about that, and the focus on preparing students for jobs in fields today so that they walk out prepared for their first job, and as we often talk about here, but then they've learned how to learn so they're ready for whatever changes in the economy. And we'll talk more about that a little bit, I think, with our guest today, which is that people are always upgrading themselves as they move through a 40-year career. Last night, we played Ohio State in men's volleyball. Unfortunately, we lost, but we also had the President's Circle group with us, which was really great, and we were able to celebrate with them, be with them, and talk to them about many of the exciting things that are going on, not just in athletics, but across campus. So that was great. The other President's Circle event that's coming up is next week. We'll be at St. Augustine College to show some of our, those people that invest in the future of Lewis University. We'll be able to show them around the campus. They'll be able to meet some of the employees and some of the students, and I think it'll be a great day. And just a reminder, I'll say this later, but next Wednesday, in addition to being Valentine's Day, is Ash Wednesday. So you will be able to get your ashes on campus here or at St. Augustine. We're making that available there as well. Last night, Chris was at the Occupational Therapy White Coat Ceremony, another great ceremony. We have so many events that happen that celebrate these markers in the lives of our students. So we also have a lot to celebrate in terms of the accomplishments of our faculty, Chris.
Yeah, it was wonderful to be there last night at the President's Circle event and meeting with so many of our wonderful members of the President's Circle. And the White Coat Ceremony is a ceremony for occupational therapy in this case, and they put on, it's a ceremony where they put on the white coat that symbolizes that they're going to go into practice. For our students in that program, it's really just their second semester, but they go into the field and start working in clinics and so on this semester. So it's a really beautiful ceremony where students who already have the white coat put it on the students who are entering the professional field, and it's many families were there. It was really, really lovely. So lots of news. Congratulations to Dr. Haisong Lee, Assistant Professor of Elementary Education, who co-authored the article, The Effect of Student-Teacher Relationships on Students' Math Motivation Across EU Countries, published in the Journal of Advanced Academics. Congratulations to Dr. Teresa Bixby, Professor of Chemistry and Director of Assessment, who was recently named by the POGIL Project, that's P-O-G-I-L Project, to a 3-year term on its steering committee. The POGIL Project is a national nonprofit organization that disseminates its unique student-centered pedagogy at the secondary and college levels, along with providing professional development opportunities for instructors. It's a great honor. She's a really innovative teacher and always trying new things, and that is represented in her leadership in POGIL, this great national organization. Congratulations to Dr. Joanna Marvia, Assistant Professor of Education, who recently received a $75,000 racial equity research grant from the Spencer Foundation. Dr. Marvia's project is called Voices of Reason y Resistencia, Migrant Youth Enacting Participatory Action. And so through participatory action research, migrant youth will work collectively with Professor Marvia to design a qualitative study to further understand the lived realities of their racial and linguistic identities. So congratulations on that great honor and the ability to do such powerful research in the community. Students in the Lewis University Lasallian University Center for Education in Rome this semester are learning a great deal about the scope of International Lasallian Educational Network. Wonderful opportunity. On Monday, January 29th, the Board of Trustees for Bethlehem University met in Rome at the Mother House, the same place where our students are living and going to school. And after their meeting, Brother Hector Hernan Santos Gonzalez, who's the Vice Chancellor of Bethlehem University, as well as Dr. Imam Saka, Vice President for Academic Affairs, were able to meet with our Lewis students and talk about the really, as we've talked about many times, the very challenging and intensely difficult situation that is going on in Bethlehem as a result of the war, and I just can't even, we've talked so much about what they're going through there in Bethlehem, but also an incredible opportunity for our students to, while they're, for many of whom are having their first international experience in Rome, also to be able to encounter at the Brothers Mother House. There are many people from all across the world coming and going and meeting, and that's such a great opportunity that we were able to set up that conversation. 3 Lewis University students won the top spots at the Agape Connection MLK Oratorical Contest on January 14th. Students in the competition created and presented speeches focusing on the philosophy, beliefs, and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. The top winners of the contest were all Lewis students, 3 Lewis students, Caitlin Brombos, Kristen Pawlowski, and Devin Kennebrew. The top 3 winners were awarded prizes for their speeches about topics such as book banning, race, and anti-Semitism. Agape is a nonprofit community-based organization responding to the needs of the community around Aurora, as well as the entire West Suburban Chicago area. And then I'm going to mention a couple of events that are out in the future a little bit, or just a couple weeks out, to mark your calendars for. So the 3rd annual Brother Bernard Rapp Lecture on Faith and Science will take place on April 8th at 3:30 p.m. in AS 158A, and will feature Dr. Christiana Zenner, whose presentation is called Fresh Waters, Science, Values, and the Role of Theology. Dr. Zenner is an associate professor of theology, science, and ethics at Fordham University. And it seems like it's been a long time since the last play. It always happens during the winter holiday break, but it's time for another play. Our first play of the spring is underway. It's called Exit Strategy, and it's a pretty new play by Ike Holter, who will have performances of Exit Strategy February 16th through 18th and 22nd through 25th at the usual evening and matinee times at the Philip Lynch Theater. Exit Strategy explores the state of public schools in Chicago and more broadly across the country. So it sounds really interesting, intense, sort of social commentary type play that I look forward to seeing our students.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. I'll look forward to that too. I do love, we do great theater productions, and we're just very proud of our students, many of whom are not theater majors, but are majoring in human resources or, accounting or chemistry but want to be on stage because they did a lot of that in high school or they're trying it for the first time. So it's fun to see. So a few events that are happening on campus that we want to make sure people are aware of. There's a game night tonight. The Alpha Psi Lambda game night is occurring tonight, 4:30 to 6. But we also have women's basketball and men's basketball tonight against Truman State. Don't forget that this is the Brothers Bash tonight, which means that there is pizza after the men's game in the field house. And the brothers offer that, and it's really fun. And it's enjoyable. You get some time to talk with the brothers, even though there are often quite long lines actually for the pizza there. We also have several things going on the rest of the week. So we have the Filipino American Association meeting tomorrow. Upper Iowa this weekend. We'll have Mass this weekend, and of course there's a Super Bowl watch party that's going on the night of the Super Bowl. So that'll be fun. That's in James Gaffney 102, so enjoy that. There's also a Student Senate Coffee and Comments is happening next week, so you may want to look into that and try to attend that. The one thing that I think Chris and I are both going to try to get to, we'll see if we can, is Jet's having his birthday party next week. So if you don't know Jet yet, Jet is our local campus dog. He's a kind of comfort dog. He is great. He's a beautiful big dog. But Jet's having his birthday party in AS 104C next week on the 13th. Black Student Union has their meeting. The Douglas Day celebration, which is an opportunity to transcribe and reflect on the writings of Douglas and all that he offers. It's another one of the many events that we're doing related to Black History Month. So Frederick Douglass was a major player in that. And then next week we have a bunch of activities around Valentine's Day, which is also Ash Wednesday. So, you know, it's an odd combination because, you know, you start your fasting and you eat chocolate. And so I would say you just start your fasting on Thursday, enjoy the chocolate on Wednesday, get your ashes, and prepare for the rest of the season, the Lenten season. We have a lot of exciting things obviously going on campus, but today our guests are going to talk about some expansion of the way in which we can serve students here at Lewis. We've talked about this before, but we really want to come back and do a little more because we've made a lot of progress here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really look forward to speaking with our guests. Before I do, two things. One is please remember to use the email at the bottom of the screen, ask us at lewisu.edu. And if you have a question, we'll get it into the conversation right away. And if you are watching a recorded version of this on YouTube, please feel free to use it still, and we can get the question out to whomever might be the best person to answer it through email. So I'm really excited to introduce our two guests. I'm going to introduce both of them now, and then we'll start our conversation. So Dr. Shelia Boysen is a professor in the College of Business and serves as the program director of the Master of Arts in Organizational Leadership and MBA programs, as well as the training director of our International Coach Federation Accredited Executive Coach Training Program. Shelia is currently serving as the inaugural faculty director of Continuing Education and Micro-Credentials, which she's here to talk about today. She is a master certified executive leadership coach, and prior to transitioning to higher education, she began her career in industry in human resources and organizational development. Dr. Ann Rapp is Vice Provost for Graduate and Continuing Education. Ann has worked in the field of continuing higher education for 25 years, has served as an associate professor and later dean of the School of Graduate Professional and Continuing Education here at Lewis. Before coming to Lewis, she taught at DePaul University's College for Adult Learners. So, Ann, Shelia, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
So great to be here with you.
It's so awesome.
Happy to be here.
Really been looking forward to this conversation. It's such a great topic, as President Livingston said. Mm-hmm. Can I just give you one piece of advice before we start talking about continuing education? Yeah. You may have not learned this yet, maybe you have. Never get on a schedule after JET.
Yes.
When JET.
So true.
That's now part of my requests if anybody asks me to come and speak.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
Jed is there,
Right.
Yeah,
Jet is
nobody will be
afterwards.
paying attention.
He is
Ann and I
so
checked that before we agreed
popular.
to come
Yeah,
on Conversations
so
from Stritch.
yeah, there's no sign of him. He's
got
not
it.
here, so we're all good.
Yeah, we're glad. I mean, we love to have Jet in studio. Maybe we should do that as one
That's
of
a
our
good
guests
idea,
at some
yeah.
point. But he does suck up all the oxygen in the room, so I would agree.
And
with
it's such a sign that he's such a great, well-trained dog that we're allowed to have a huge party where dozens and dozens
Yes.
of people are going to go into a small room and celebrate him. He's
Yes.
going to be like, yes, no problem.
that. Yeah.
Okay, so what is continuing education?
I think we have a slide related to
Okay,
what
so
is
we're, yeah, I
continuing
mean,
education.
this is a fairly complex topic, so we thought it might be good to just maybe start with some informational context, and here we are. So
So let's start with a visual on the left. I think what we want to sort of broaden our perspective of what higher education is, and we think about, generally speaking, undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees, and that's what we're used to coming to university for. There's another piece of the puzzle, especially because work is changing rapidly and our lifespans are extended, and that means our careers are longer. And with rapid change in the economy, we will need to return to college over time for a different kind of educational experience.
So you're telling me I have to work longer? Is that what you're saying, Ann?
Well, you said 40-year curriculum. I hate to break it to you, but
Like,
it's
I don't know if I'm ready for
60.
this. Oh my gosh, I
It's
got to work
the
60 years.
It's the 60-year
Oh,
curriculum.
You're killing me. You're killing me.
Right?
But I do love that Lewis is really forward thinking. I mean, and I guess I'd love to hear maybe all three of you respond to this. The challenge for some institutions of higher ed is that they get caught up in those two triangles that were just those two pieces of the pie. It's all their faculty, it's all their administration can think about. This is just the way that higher ed is built. And maybe somebody else will do this other thing. But what you're saying is universities are essential to this ecosystem of continuing education and have the people that can actually do this well. But maybe you could talk a little bit about, I mean, any of you can talk about this, because I would say not every university is in this space.
Yes, we have the expertise in our faculty, and for many universities it can be a heavy lift. It can be a lot to produce shorter term credentials, which we did have a definition on the right side of that slide that I hope people caught. Shorter term credentials that we will come back to upskill, reskill, change careers, advance in our careers over our lifetime. We call them micro-credentials, we call them certificates. Those are certificates or micro-credentials of completion. And then we have certifications. Certifications are industry-aligned credentials that are recognized in a specific field. And one of the things that I've been seeing, and I know this is a little tangent, is as I'm serving on search committees and looking at resumes, I am seeing more and more lists of industry credentials. And people are using them to differentiate themselves in the job market. It's just becoming the norm at this point. I don't know if you want to add to this.
I think you summarized it so well. And just the idea of skilling, and we hear all the terminology, even beyond what we saw on the slide there, upskilling and reskilling. And so the idea that when we're doing such a great job in a university setting and here at Lewis, of creating fantastic opportunities for bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and that foundational opportunity for education. One of the things that I think we do really well, and a sign of doing it really well, is we're also creating and inspiring lifelong learners, which works out really well for where we're heading and how things are going. We talked about working a little bit longer, but also how many times someone's going to make a career pivot. Or need to make a shift or a change. And not only that, but just how much is changing, even if they are on somewhat of what might be considered a straight line trajectory. The speed of change is only increasing. So how can we create opportunities for them to come back to where they already have such a fantastic foundation and enthusiasm for learning, and support them throughout that entire trajectory of their career arc?
Yeah, so one thing that is not changing, or is not different for us, at least as a university, is who we serve. And we, in both of both of you have a lot, decades of experience serving adults who are in the middle of their lives, in the middle of their careers, who want to make a career change, want access to a new type of profession, all kinds of different things. And so that's one, and that is not unique to our history. And we've done it in the past in the form of degrees. And that one of those pies was a bachelor's degree or undergraduate degree or whatever is typically how we've done it. And what you're telling us, or what we're learning together, is that some of that same type of person now expects to learn differently, to learn in those shorter formats, to get certificates rather than one bachelor's degree and then wait 10 years and get a different one and so on. It's just a little bit of a different level of turnover in terms of what that skilling is, or whatever the right word is for that, to preparation professionally for the next thing that you're doing in your career, or even in the same job. You need to learn new things.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm going to reframe that and then turn it into a question. So it seems to me that this can come out of a place of curiosity, but it can also come out of a place of felt deficit, right? So I'm sitting there, I've been in my career for 10 years. Maybe I even have both a bachelor's degree and an MBA, or I have a bachelor's degree in education, I've got my master's degree in education. But then I'm realizing that some of these kids are graduating and they know all this stuff that I don't know, right? Because things keep changing. I have those degrees, but so now I feel anxiety, right? I feel like, but I don't know what I need to know to keep being as good as I want to be. Or sometimes it's curiosity and I'm like, they keep talking about this and I'm not going to go get a whole nother master's in it. Yeah. So tell me the kind of difference between what I call traditional degrees and these kinds of certificates, courses, et cetera. Because I think that's what drives people. Like, they come to this website, they go to Coursera, they come to Lewis University, and they want either to fill a curiosity because they went down a rabbit hole, or they want to get rid of an anxiety they have vis-a-vis their ability to continue to perform. So could you talk a little bit about how this is different?
Could I add one more category?
Please.
That's aspirational.
Yes, they want to be able to do X.
Yeah, they're lifelong learners, right? They came to Lewis. They learned to be lifelong learners, maybe
Sure.
as an undergraduate
Yep.
and a graduate student. And they're excited to grow in their career.
Right.
They see what that next step on the ladder is, and they realize what the gap is and how to fill it. And this is a place where they can fill it.
So tell me about, because I think the key here that we want to make sure we emphasize to our listeners is, so all that is true, and in the past, let's go back 20 years, and maybe we'd have to go back further than that. My only option when I had that aspiration was to do another degree, right? And now what we're saying is, you can have that aspiration or that curiosity or that felt inadequacy, and there's a way for you to fill that without having to get a master's degree, right? And I'd like you to explain, like, how this really, what is this that makes it distinct from that? Because we're going to still offer master's degrees, and sometimes that's a totally appropriate way to go for somebody. We're not denying that at all. It's a totally appropriate thing to do, but this is different.
It's a both and a little bit, right? I mean, there is going to absolutely continue to be a place, a necessity, and a huge amount of value when it comes to credit-bearing degrees,
Yes.
right? Including master's degrees.
Yes.
And for many of us, it probably doesn't make sense, even though some of us want to. And I actually had a student tell me they're in the same boat that I am, that their partner has cut them off from degrees. They've hit their limit.
You can only get so many.
Yeah.
They'll only allow you to do so many degrees.
Yes. So don't you worry, my friends. There is continuing
There's a way to
education.
keep doing
There is
all
a
of it
loophole.
without the
There's
degree.
a way
Yeah, right.
around this. Exactly. So that fantastic opportunity
that.
of a both and, right? I mean, for most of us, whether someone else is telling you you're cut off or you are just kind of deciding that for yourself,
Yeah.
maybe 3 master's degrees isn't the thing that's going to make the most sense for you. for lots of different financial and time reasons. And we're talking about the speed of change. Someone already has this fantastic foundation that they achieved here at Lewis, and now it's about building on it.
Yeah.
It's about continuing the momentum and filling those gaps so that they can make whatever transition or change they want to make. Thank goodness when I was 18, no one held me to what I said I wanted to be.
Of course.
Which actually I said I wanted to be a college professor, but that's okay.
wow.
We'll just put that aside. But most of us don't fully know.
Right.
And that is even more the case now because
Yeah.
we can't predict what the future of work is going to look like 10 years from now and what skills are going to fill that gap. So having a portfolio and a catalog like this that we can be nimble, we can be fully responsive to the broadest sense of our learners, our alumni. In some cases, we've actually had parents that are taking a look at our continuing education offerings and inspired to learn alongside their children, through that continuing education avenue. So very complementary,
Right.
not in conflict.
And so speed and focus is a part of this, is what I hear you saying. I know there are other things, but meaning I can get this information relatively quickly. I don't need to spend 2 years necessarily. And it can be focused on a very specific piece of something that I aspire to be able to do, or that but can you, and you mentioned this, and of course we are always proud of our students who got their degree here, but many people have moved to Chicago. They have degrees from a place in Georgia, a place in California, a place in New York. They can take advantage of our so it's not, you don't have to continue your Lewis education. You can continue your education from some other institution, right? So we're open to anybody that has gotten their degrees anywhere but wants to do continuing education.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
All are welcome.
Okay, so one question, just to change the subject a little bit, but same vein of how people use these opportunities. What if you are a Lewis student or thinking about being a Lewis student in one of the degree programs? How can you take advantage of what Lewis offers in relationship to this?
The way I would frame it is as something that's complementary to your degree. It is a way to, let's say you earned a certification, and we can talk about some examples as we get forward in the conversation.
Oh no, keep
Sorry.
talking.
Anyway, so it's a complementary thing to your education. It's a way to be able to distinguish yourself when you enter the job market, for instance.
Right.
So, and it doesn't really matter what that major might be, right? We were talking about the example of a short course in how to facilitate a meeting effectively.
Effective meetings.
Yeah. So just a very tangible.
Yeah, so in that example, what would be the degree that you'd be getting where that would be helpful? It's super helpful
degree.
in my job, I know.
It's super helpful in my job, but how do you present yourself in a professional setting, and how do you facilitate a conversation and a meeting? It seems to me to apply across the board. I mean, if you're in a business setting, for instance,
Right.
maybe you need to lead a team. Maybe it's a small team, but you need to facilitate it.
Okay.
You need to know how to organize a meeting, how to generate discussion, etc.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, probably most of us have sat in a meeting that makes that course feel even more relevant.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But very universal skill.
Yeah. So can I just ask? So here's where I guess that speed and focus. So this kind of thing, how to run a meeting well, can be used by anybody, and it's not degree connected per se. It goes to that aspirational. I want to run better meetings. I want to be a better communicator. I want to be more organized in this. Or I sit in these meetings and I go to this person's meeting and they're really efficient and effective. And then I run my own meetings and they're like, it's not great. So it's that sense of I could do this better, but can you give me a sense of the duration? And I know these are different, but maybe you can give me 2 or 3 examples. Like this certificate is going to take me this amount of time, and that might be time per week plus. You can maybe explain the number of weeks that it's going to take. And then this other kind of thing that you might want to also do might take you twice as much of that time, and it might be, but give me a little sense of how, like if I want to fill a gap or I want to aspire to this, in many of these certificates or short courses, what's the time I'm looking for? What do you need from me if I'm going to accomplish this?
It might help a little bit then to kind of start to dive into, so what is in this portfolio of continuing education learning that we've very intentionally curated and launched this year. So we have a few different categories, or I guess, well, yeah, categories and subcategories of courses, and it actually goes very, very deep. So when you talk about time, we have quite a variety of what that looks like. And it really is in the spirit of meeting learners exactly where they're at and what they need. So specifically, if you look at our portfolio, we had to make the very intentional and strategic decision to be able to launch with intention and come into this market and be able to support our learners and our Lewis community now, as opposed to having to wait, by making the decision to partner with some external content providers, while intentionally working internally to build our own continuing education learning opportunities. So we have a bit of both right now. But the idea is over time, we absolutely will be flexing and could be flexing to that internal expertise, giving us the time and the runway and the space to be able to build that and do that. So we talk with these content providers, and your question about time and what does this actually look like. So 2 main content providers that we researched and vetted and interviewed and then made the decision to integrate into our catalog, into our portfolio. The first one's Ed2Go. So Ed2Go is an online learning platform.
There we go.
There it is. An online learning platform under the Cengage umbrella. So a lot of our students and faculty will be familiar with Cengage as their textbook publisher or their online digital course resource support. And Ed2Go has 2 categories of offerings that go very deep, as in hundreds of different learning opportunities and courses within that Ed2Go portfolio. So the first one's fundamentals. And these are a little bit more kind of bite-size skill learning opportunities. So the course that we talked about, the learning course that we talked about around facilitating effective meetings would fall into the fundamental category. And these could be anywhere from, a few hours, so 20 hours, to maybe a month or a couple months, but scalable as far as fitting into your life and how urgently you're looking to acquire that skill and be able to represent that on your resume. And then the second category of Ed2Go courses are called advanced career training courses, because they are truly meant to be career training, where that's where you might be doing that upskilling that allows you to make that bigger step or advancement, or the reskilling where you're actually looking to make a pivot or a shift.
And would they be specific to a particular profession?
They
in that
are
category.
They are actually very broad
Okay.
and very deep. So complementary to anyone making a shift in the umbrella of disciplines that we already know and love, and have fantastic expertise and students graduating with, but also expanding even beyond that, and allowing us that ability to be nimble where maybe something's going to come up that we aren't even aware of yet.
So can I ask you, Sheila, on that? So we are very used to, in higher ed, having, for lack of a better word, a degree map or a course mapping where I have to take intro to chemistry in order to be able to take organic chemistry, and I have to be able to take organic chemistry before I can take PChem or something like that, right? There's a, in this, do I have to do, like, is somebody going to judge me and say, well, you can't go into that course for Ed2Go because you haven't had this course in Ed2Go? Or can I guess what I'm saying is, could I take meetings before I took budgeting? Or, but I am just making things up. I don't know what's in there.
Well, maybe if we could back up a little bit to that, before that question, may students take one course or is there a package of courses that are leading to particular certificates or,
Yes and yes.
credentials of some kind? So maybe talk about those, those 2 different pathways.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. And maybe in my effort to answer both questions, and hold me to this, but the idea that no one's going to tell you that you can't do this because they're built intentionally, and the reason that everything's in this portfolio is because you get to choose your own adventure. After you have that fantastic foundation of whatever learning, education, and career experience that you individually have, you're the one who's determining what is it that I want next. Whether it is just a skill to enhance or add to your toolkit, and it's hard to say budgeting or meetings would come first. That is I have to let go that that's a very individual preference, and I'm sure that my colleagues in the College of Business might hold a different perspective that I do, coming from leadership and facilitation. But both are important skills depending on what your individual goals are. And this idea then that you get to choose. So no one's going to tell you, no, you can't take that. And then, Chris, I loved your question about, is there that stackability? Is there that idea of kind of building the momentum or the value by putting them together? And there absolutely can be. In some cases in the portfolio, there's this opportunity to take like a level 1, a level 2, a level 3 that might actually lead you to a full certificate or certification. And an example of that would be also meeting people where they're at, where, let's say, the Adobe suite. So maybe we don't have a professional or educational background, and that's an area that you want to explore, or a skill that you want to grow in your current employment or your current work. You might already have a little bit of knowledge and you'll start at level 2, or you can start at level 1, or you can put them all together to have that full representation.
And so could you give us a couple examples? I think that, I just want to reemphasize one of the things you said at the beginning. This is the economy is changing so rapidly. So many things get thrown at us day in and day out. You talk about Adobe, or somebody could talk about the Microsoft suite, or somebody could talk about Cisco. And there are these certifications that one can get. But I guess I'd like to, I guess broaden it to this issue of, it is different, as you said, because I have my bachelor's or my master's degree. So I'm the one that curates, in some sense. You've pre-curated, here's the 150 courses that you could take, because we've adopted Ed2Go and Coursera, which was also on that slide, and you may want to talk about Coursera. So I have these, and I know there's more than 150. So there's maybe thousands of courses, right, that I could take.
Somewhere in between there,
I can pick and choose what I want. But there is this sense of, and this is something we also want to talk about, so you may want to do that Coursera piece first, but I do think it's, how do I use this when I am going into an interview, when I'm putting it on my resume, to make myself the candidate that you want to hire, right? Because I did these 4 Coursera courses, or I now know the Adobe suite really well, and I can put that on. So talk a little bit about how either you personally have used it, or people that you've worked with have used it to actually make a difference as they apply for an internal promotion, or they're moving from one setting to another professionally.
So I think rather than talk specifically about Coursera, I think we could talk about badging. And so even before you would get to the interview, when you have completed a continuing education set of courses, you will be able to digitally share on LinkedIn, for instance, and then on a resume digitally as well, that you have earned this certification. And Shelia can really speak to the sophistication in terms of algorithms and hiring processes, that those are going to ping essentially what employers are looking for. So you're going to be able to clear some hurdles even before you get to that interview. That may be, a ballpark criteria for a position, that someone needs to have X to even get to the point of an interview, for instance.
When a student is thinking about what they might want to do and all these choices, they're looking at job listings and looking at what people are listing as their required or preferred knowledge. Really it's about skills probably for most people, and then they can go to Lewis and Ed2Go and Coursera and our other offerings and match through a certification that skill that employers are looking for.
Absolutely. And when Anne's mentioning the digital credentialing, our badges, because we do badge many of these learning opportunities after someone completes them, there's a architecture that sits behind, that digital artifact. And yes, you can share it on LinkedIn, you can share it on your digital resume, you can share it in your email signature, but it actually lists the skills for you. So someone can click in there and see what skills were attained, what the criteria was, exactly. And it empowers you to go ahead, that not so subtle reminder, put those skills on your
Yeah.
LinkedIn profile after
Yeah.
you complete this learning. Absolutely. And I think employers really appreciate just seeing that someone is invested in their own upskilling and continuous development. In some ways,
Right.
employers are really appreciating the well-rounded person, that they're not necessarily even looking for this tech skill,
Yeah, they're
just the
just
fact that
continuous.
you are going back. And I think that's actually one thing we haven't touched on yet with the breadth and the depth and variety of our portfolio of continuing education. Yes, we don't want to downplay the importance of career advancement and skills that help you to make that pivot or have that growth. But also there's something about personal development as well.
So
So
give me
Yeah.
give me a little of the breadth and depth, or give me the breadth maybe.
not the
that's
breadth
hard.
and depth, just the breadth.
Well, this is
Okay.
what we're talking about. There's a breadth to this that maybe people like we seem to be focused on, businessy kind of things that are going to help, how to run a meeting,
What about
how to do
art?
Adobe.
What about,
but what's the breadth of this that that you could give somebody watching that would say, no idea I could learn that.
There is a learning opportunity. I hope my husband's not watching because he's going to cut me off and continue ed soon too. But the learning opportunity around writing creative novels.
No.
And so I think learner is one of my top Clifton strengths, which you probably can tell this, which
Yeah.
I think we inspire that in a lot of individuals in our Lewis community. But that
Right.
just sounds so exciting
Yeah,
to me
sure.
to spend some time doing that.
Right.
Even if you're not looking to make money off of it or turn it into a
Right.
full
Oh, yeah,
career
just
pivot,
doing it.
there's a course on starting your own online craft business. So is this helping you see like just the
no, that's
variety
what I was looking
and
for,
the,
'cause, I
that
want
might be a little bit of
people to-
depth with the breadth.
Sure.
But,
Honestly, we've been talking about like us using this and getting access to it as our students, and I'm a little afraid of learning about it because I may quit my job like 6 months later.
we're going to hear about Chris's craft business that he's launching online.
I didn't know you could do that.
This
That
huge
sounds
side
great.
hustle.
Exactly. Exactly.
If may I?
Yeah, please, please.
I would like to do a rapid question sequence
Okay.
because we're running out of
I'm
time.
a little concerned we haven't talked about Coursera
Okay,
enough.
what is Coursera?
So
That's the first
I
question.
want to just to clarify that when we say Coursera, we do not mean all of Coursera. Okay, we have specifically partnered with the Coursera Career Academy, which is an array of certifications that have been developed with industry partners. Microsoft, they were on the slide. Microsoft, Salesforce, help me out, Meta, IBM, that are in a package for us essentially, and offered through Lewis and Coursera in partnership. So when you think about Coursera, you might think about those massive online
right.
courses.
These are not-
That is not necessarily, that's not the water we're swimming in. We are really looking at tangible courses that lead to specific certifications that are recognized.
specific huge multinational corporations
Exactly.
want people to have.
Right.
Yes.
And have partnered to build
Yes, have partnered
the
to build.
curriculum
Coursera.
Very good.
based on that.
All right, now to your
Okay,
rapid fire.
so are the courses in either, in any of the three, ours or Ed2Go or Coursera, are they online? Are they synchronous? Are they, live? Or are they things you can do on your own pace?
I think the theme of these questions are yes,
Okay.
all of the above.
Okay, there will be choices among those.
And as we mentioned, our own,
Our
two
own,
examples of this that are tremendously relevant and industry aligned would be like the Society of Human Resource
Right.
Management, SHRM, certification prep seminar, offered internally, developed and offered internally through partnership with SHRM, or project management, which is probably up there with that importance of
Yeah.
facilitating effective
Oh,
meetings.
yeah.
We could all benefit from project
we
management.
love project
we do.
managers.
I can tell. But our own internally developed project management preparation course to sit for the
Yeah,
PMP assessment as well is
exam.
about to launch.
But are all
Okay.
of these online? I just want to get back to that. So none of this is, I have to come to Oak Brook or to Romeoville or to Argyle to take this course. All of these are online, everything we're talking about here.
Our current catalog, like so the SHRM,
Yeah.
there's an opportunity
Yeah.
if you wanted to
There
come
is
on
a-
campus.
Just for our in-house ones,
Yeah.
there is an
And
option.
everything is offered online, so beyond geographic boundaries and fitting into your life, whatever that
And then
looks like.
self-paced, or is it more common for it to be self-paced?
It is both.
Okay.
So
All right.
with Ed2Go, for example, you can choose for pretty
okay.
much every one of those opportunities. So when you take your craft business course, you can choose if you would like to take that completely self-paced, or if you'd like to take that structured with
other
a mentor,
people.
an instructor
wonderful.
who's right there alongside you.
That leads to my next question. How do you know that the instructors are great instructors?
Yes. So a little kind of getting a little bit general because we're talking about
Yeah.
3 different populations, but we talk generally all high quality and extremely well vetted. And part of the reason that we selected these partners to help us to build our catalog and our portfolio. So partnering with industry, partnering with organizations like we just showed a minute ago, partnering with individuals who have very specific skill sets, relevant experience in role in industry right now,
Yeah.
and then constantly looking at quality around metrics, student satisfaction, performance, and looking at, because things are changing in some of these courses, the industry, technology, making sure that they're updated on a very regular basis for
And I'm
relevancy.
assuming also that because these are great, really high-level companies that we're partnering with, the quality of the online
Experience.
technology is also very high.
All right, so you may be planning to ask this. How much does this cost?
That was my last question.
All right,
You beat
so-
me. Yeah.
I know, that's an important one.
It is.
So again, when we're talking about like these fundamental foundational courses, it could be anywhere from $59 to $400, $500, depending on the depth and the length. And then when we're talking about these advanced career training program courses, that might be something that could be 9 months long, really preparing you for that industry certification or certificate. Those could be anywhere from $1,000 up to, on average, about $3,000. The largest scale one that would also align with the biggest career pivot in income would be about $5,000. $5,000, yeah.
Okay. Nice.
And Coursera is a subscription model.
Oh, right.
And so it's a monthly, about $45, and that gives you access to the entire suite. So
So
you
as
might
much as
get
I can
hooked.
get done in a month.
Yeah,
By
and
the
then
way,
you,
that really plays into the people who really are.
Yep.
I don't
That's
want to use
another
the
loophole
A
here.
word, but yeah, the people who
Another
really,
loophole. And right now
really
on
like
our
to think of themselves as always
exactly.
learning. I can get a lot. The more I learn, the less expensive it is.
That's right. That's right. There's definitely a piece there to latch
I
on
can
to.
relate with that.
But the idea that the Coursera subscriptions right now, you can actually choose the length of subscription. So it could be for 3 months,
Oh, okay.
6 months, or 12 months, and it's all you can learn in that length of time.
Yeah.
And where, and we may not have the web page
We
available.
do have it on a
Okay.
screen here. If we want to
Okay.
pop it
yeah,
up
that's
here,
our
and
last
it's
question. There it is. There's our
There we
continuing
go.
education
And
webpage.
if
Which means you can start at, just type in Lewis University into any browser that you choose. You will end up at
Lewis
this basic
University,
page, this
continuing
Lewis
education,
and then you
and this
type
should
in
get you here.
continuing
Yes.
education, and
and
here
then
you
it all
go.
branches out from there.
it does.
All right. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for doing this work. It's extraordinary. It's a whole piece of our pie that
Yeah,
you're working
thank you
on.
for being here. We appreciate that.
Thanks
We
for having
appreciate our
us.
third guest too. We had a third guest that
Yeah,
joined
we
us
did.
for a little while.
Very,
And,
very
Of
I
course,
think
a little
he's
very,
left. He didn't answer
eager,
any questions, but
we had a beetle with us.
yeah, that's all right.
Not the same love as the dog, but
No, Jet wasn't here, but we did have our pet beetle, but that was okay. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. It's really great information. I think it is a big part of the future of higher education. As we started with, there's just so much that we all need to learn from the time that we're 25 until the time we're 95. And this is one of those opportunities that will allow you to do that. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Again, remember, lots of activities on campus this week. We wish you nothing but the best, many blessings to you and everyone that you love.